I am talking to Susan Cattaneo. And Susan, what's the name of your band?
It's the Susan Cattaneo Band.
That
There
makes
you
it very
go.
easy.
See?
And is it a trio?
It isn't. Normally I play with a drummer as well, and I have a background vocalist sometime as well. So it changes. Sometimes it's very acoustic, and sometimes it's also electric. So.
Who's the drummer?
The drummer, I've worked with Dave Maddox.
Okay.
And also Andrew Jones are my two drummers right
great.
now. So.
Who's the backup singer?
A woman named Emily Dale, who's a student at Berkeley with me. So.
And you have two musicians with you tonight.
I do. I have my tall musicians are with me tonight. I have Elliot Hunt, who's going to play guitar, and Mark Hickox, who's going to play bass.
Hello, Elliot. Hello, Mark.
Hi there. Hello.
Welcome to Public Access Television.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. So I'm working on the computer in the next room, and I hear this song. I'm like, Jillian Cardarelli did this song. I interviewed her. I think I reviewed this record, and I go looking on TMI Zoom, and there it is. And you're singing it, and I come in expecting to find Jillian. And you're not Jillian.
No.
But how did that all happen?
Well, the song actually came about because I wrote it with a friend of mine who's from Guthrie, Oklahoma. And so we were talking about how out there, you know, the landscape is so that you can see miles and miles of nothing but miles. And that kind of was the start of the song called Little Big Sky, which we wrote. And I worked for a while down in Nashville, and I was pitching it around. And a friend of mine who was playing guitar for Jillian at the time, you know, called and said, hey, she's looking for songs for her new album. So we pitched it to her, and she took it, and it became the title cut of the CD. So Little Big Sky.
Little Big Sky. And you know, it's really good because, you know, my ears perked up right away, and I'm like, okay. And, you know, hearing so many people come through the studio and so many records to review and to just remember it like that, because I haven't heard it on the radio. I heard it in my car. Right. But it was like, wow, so that's a good sign.
Thank you.
No, it sounded really great, too.
It's great.
You're going to do it tonight?
I am going to do it tonight. And in fact, I'm actually going to release it to country radio in January. So I'm doing an EP, which is going to be released probably spring of 2012. It's called Little Big Sky, and we'll have that on it. But I did like a really, really country version with lots of fiddles and stuff, so it'll be good. It's different.
And for our viewers, this is the Music Closet with Jeff Dearman's the producer, and Chris is here recording with Jeff tonight, and we're at WinCAM, and it's a wonderful show where so many different musicians come in. Jeff has got an amazing ear, and I'm stunned at some of the musicians he brings in. I'm like happy that you're here because I know the tune, and it's like, it's kind of cosmic when you think of all the zillions of tunes out there, that he would bring in someone that wrote a song that I reviewed the album. It's just kind of wild.
It feels like destiny then or
something.
It's
cosmic. And we were talking off camera. You know my good friend Dee Dee Stewart.
I do.
You worked with her.
I did. So I teach in the songwriting department at Berkeley, and she teaches in the voice department at Berkeley. But at one point, they kind of asked all of the members of Berkeley, student and faculty, if they were writing, if they had any things to submit, because they were starting a literary magazine. And so she and I both submitted and got published our short stories.
Oh.
So that's how we kind of hung out together. She's a good writer.
Great.
She is great.
Now, 3 years ago, 2008, Marty Ballin of the Jefferson Airplane came into town. So, Dee Dee, do you know Ellie Marshall? Ellie Marshall was in a band called the Modern Lovers with Jonathan Richman. And Ellie's a local Bostonian good friend of Dee Dee's. And I brought them up in 1992 to a Marty Ballin recording session. And they were going to sing on it. And my dear friend Marty's wife, who just passed away, Karen Deal, said, "Oh, the vocals are done, Joe," you know. But and it's like, oh well. So they didn't get to sing on the album. So I thought, all these years later, Marty's back in town. We need a backup. We need a lead vocalist for Somebody to Love and White Rabbit. I need a backup.
Right.
And Dee Dee said yes, and it was great. And we did the Esplanade.
She's so good. Yeah, she's wonderful.
So now she's part of airplane history in a way.
I like that.
Because it's on DVD, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that Berkeley is so brimming with people that are important to this region. And it has become something different than what it was in the 70s and 80s.
Definitely.
It's now a mecca.
Yeah, it really is.
And it wasn't back in the day.
And
we had its place, but now it's very it's integral to the Boston music community.
I completely agree with you. And I think that you're going to see that even more and more. Because I think that we were just talking about how it would be wonderful if there was a little more synergy between the music world, the music business world, and our graduating students. You know, we want them to be able to go out and actually work in the music industry. And in the old days, we didn't do that. You know, in the old days, you just got a Berkeley degree, and then you worked at you know, Radio Shack and gigged at night. And so we're really trying to help our students be more prepared to go out into the world, which is good.
Now, how did you find these two fellows?
How did I find these two fellows? Well, when I first did my first CD in 2009, I worked with a very, very talented musician named Mike Berry.
Okay.
And Mike Berry had worked with Mark, and that's how so Mike and Mark and I played together for a while.
And what does Mark play?
Mark plays bass.
And you were playing, and what did you do with Mike?
Mike played guitar.
Okay,
And
and
then
they were recording?
No, we actually did a bunch of shows locally and stuff.
Oh.
And then when I have this new CD out, and I'm looking to kind of take the band in a little bit of a different direction, and Elliot worked with a good friend of mine, Kristen Cifelli, who's also a singer-songwriter local, and I heard him, and we did like a Led Zeppelin thing. I think that was the first time. Yeah, I sang what was the song? I sang on,
It was on Led Zeppelin 4.
it was on we did Led Zeppelin 4, and I sang, I can't remember the name of it
Misty
now.
Mountain Hop?
No, it was the one.
With the mandolin.
Battle of Evermore?
Yes, I sang the female version of that.
Now, see, I have Bluesheimers, so for me to actually remember a track from one of the many Led Zeppelin albums, I'm impressed.
Well, they called me like a day before, so I quickly learned the song. I must have heard it about 85 times before I went and sang it, and still, got up on stage and thought, oh my gosh, do I remember the song? And it was good. It was really fun. So that's how Elliot and I met. And now Elliot and I have been working together a lot. We've been doing a lot of acoustic shows together. And
Like where?
well, we were at Passim.
Amazing Room.
Amazing Room. And we're going to be at the Dolphin Striker up in Portsmouth on Saturday.
New Hampshire?
Uh-huh. And
Is it on the beach?
No, I have no idea. I think it's right in town. I haven't been there
Yeah.
yet. And then we're doing a show in Somerville also at the Rosebud. So.
Oh, the Rosebud. Is that near Johnny D's?
Yeah, it's kind of down the street. There's like the
bar
Rosebud
in-
Diner, and it's behind the diner. So.
Oh, right. I
Yeah.
saw one of the guys from the Dictators there. Andy Chernoff.
Yeah. So we're doing a lot, and I think I'm trying to kind of do two things at the same time, where I'm gigging locally and trying to kind of expand my fan base here, and then I'm also doing this thing where I'm actually my first country CD, which was the second one, actually charted on the country charts, and was number 5 in European country music. So I'm also doing the country thing, which is so funny because I'm from New Jersey. Not country at all, but I love country music for the storytelling aspect of it. And I think as a lyricist, I find it really appealing. So.
Well, I'd love to hear your song on the radio, and I'm not saying that because you're here in front of me. It's a very catchy tune, and I'm not happy with a lot of how radio has evolved. I think that the productions are harsh. I think there's too much treble, and I used to love treble as a kid, but that's way over the top. Everything's compressed, and
Yeah, it's true.
I like the purity of what you were doing, and I would like to hear that on radio again. It's still there. You can hear it in the suburbs on North Shore 104, WBOQ. They play good, solid pop music, and that was a good pop song. And they have the solid productions that cut through the radio, not this stuff like, Kiss 108. Everything is just so processed.
I know, and my kids love, or my daughter loves Kiss 108. And at one point we drove down to New York, and we listened to it for the entire 4.5 hours down there. And by the end, I was like, we have to stop. My brain is melting. I can't listen anymore. It was just it was too much.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like it's processed for earbuds and not for radio. And the kids today don't appreciate what you people are all doing. Real artistry. And truly, when you go into a Berkeley studio, and Wayne Wadhams built these places, this great guy, Wayne Wadhams, that a lot of people should we should have a statue at Berkeley for him, because he built these studios, and he knew. He had Studio B on Boylston Street, and you could capture the sound And sure, these songs are good today, and there's some good songwriters out there, and there's some great vocalists, and they're capturing the sound, and then they're ruining it in the mix, and they're destroying it in the mastering.
Yeah.
And then the radio, forget it.
Well, but I think that, that's a certain, that's a certain radio station, you'll find that on KISS 108. But I also found that, there are some other radio stations that are really playing some quite nice stuff. Like, I like The River. I listen to that a lot.
River's good.
And I like, obviously UMB, I think also, definitely caters to kind of more like the lo-fi recordings.
And then, a Norah
and
Jones hit
is great.
can come out and be across the board. And Norah Jones is a very well-constructed hit.
Yep.
That big, and Macy Gray.
Yep.
And, and
Or
then
even Lady Antebellum. I mean, they're, a country crossover, and I would not, or even a song like When I Die Young by the band Perry. I don't know if you know that one, but
No.
I would never have said that would have crossed over into adult contemporary, but it has.
So some good, well-crafted music is breaking through there, despite all the
And
white
hopefully
noise,
I
as
will
I
too.
call it. But I'm glad we can agree on that. But anyways, I'm not going to take up your whole night here because I know that they're going to record you live, and you probably everyone probably wants to play. Anything you guys want to say?
Hi, Mom.
Just briefly, where did you learn? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you start
I'm
out?
from North Carolina originally and moved up in 1995 to go to Berkeley and have just been here ever since. So we were just talking, Susan's husband and I were talking about the Allman Brothers who were playing this evening at the Orpheum.
Are they?
That's, excuse me, that's what I grew up on, is listening to things like that and just, kind of what you're talking about with the sound of recordings and sitting with the, cassettes at that point in time and just rewind and figure the licks out. And
What's
do it the
interesting
old-fashioned
is,
way.
back in the day, the Allman Brothers would play, and they'd be like anyone else, Alice Cooper, the Rolling Stones, untouchable. Now, Butch Trucks came to an IBS conference, which is a college radio conference, so we got to talk to him. We got video of him. And he has he's talking about DIY and do-it-yourself and the internet, and you can actually approach everyone through Facebook or through...
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
amazing.
It is incredible how that wall is kind of crumbled, so to speak, I mean, because I'm certainly not an expert on this, obviously, but, there's a bit of smoke and mirrors that goes along in building up someone's career and, making
And that
them
mystique
appear.
is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has to be there. But, yeah, it has certainly shifted quite a bit in the past, I would say, at least 10 years, but probably longer than that. But, yeah, I agree, absolutely.
So just to touch the icons and the heroes, well, we're musicians, so we're expected to be able to hobnob with them. A convention is something where you're going to meet.
Sure.
Chuck D was at 2 different conventions I was at, and, I didn't get to talk to him standing right next to him, but it's kind of funny because he's so in demand.
Sure, yeah.
Everyone's around him, and it's impossible to even get a word in edgewise.
I know
Yep.
that.
But it's still cool because you're there.
Right.
They're colleagues as opposed to, even though they're so far
Yeah.
maybe above so many people in their careers, there they are at a convention as your colleague. It's kind of neat.
Sure, absolutely.
But then for the audience out there, you do want that mystery.
I think you need it a little bit. I think talking to songwriters and having them explain lyrics and things like that, I mean, I think you want to be able to find yourself, and your own story in those lyrics. I don't necessarily want to know, there's that really famous scene in, I think it's Let It Be, where the kid's on John Lennon's lawn, and John goes out to give him a sandwich or something like that, which is just such a great scene. And the kid literally thought that, he was writing and singing these songs, to him, and, obviously that's taken a bit to the extreme, but...
But that's fanaticism, which was where fan comes from.
Absolutely.
And it's a 1 in a zillion experience because John didn't make sandwiches for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So he did have that moment.
Absolutely, very powerful.
Give it to him.
And it's what you're talking about. It's like you're hanging out with this guy and you realize, wait a minute, he's a human being just like me, he's just doing his thing and not this mega Beatle, guy that he was made out to be.
But a funny thing, Buzzy Linhart is one of the insiders because he played with Jimi Hendrix. And I know you guys got to perform soon, so I'm going to just talk to both of you and then we'll get you going. But Buzzy Linhart was telling me about Bob Dylan because he's jamming with Hendrix and he's writing for Bette Midler. And he says, Bob Dylan was warning me about my manager. So the lines in Like a Rolling Stone, you used to ride on the white horse with your diplomat, carried on his shoulder a Siamese cat that was warning me to get away from my manager. because the manager had the Siamese cat on his shoulder. So he said, Like a Rolling Stone isn't just about a girl. It's an amalgam of people that Dylan put messages into his friends.
Yep. Yep.
And it was like, wow.
That's amazing.
I love stuff like that. I
Yeah.
mean, as a songwriter, I love stuff like that.
So it's like for Buzzy, who's just part of the crowd, well, yeah, he was singing to me, but he was singing to 20 of us. You had to figure out which of us he was singing which line to,
Absolutely. Yep.
which is kind of neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's your story?
You gotta hold the mic.
Hi.
There you go.
I'm originally from Canada. I came here to go to Berkeley.
Canada, North Carolina, New Jersey.
The Maple Leaf State, they call it, I think. But yeah, I graduated Berkeley in 1999 and been living here ever since, playing music.
Well, excellent. And we're going to hear some music here on the Music Closet. Thank you, WinCAM. Thank you, Jeff Dearman. Thank you, Chris. And thank you to Mr. Manager. Your manager's name is?
Dino CATTANEO. There
Hello,
he is.
Dino. And he doesn't want to be on camera. That's okay. Managers have to be in the background. They have to be mysterious.
He would love to be on camera, but we're going to keep him behind the camera.
Okay, we're going to hear some great music here at WinCAM. It's 7:56 in the evening on the last day in November. Is that correct?
It is.
November 30th, 2011. Thank you so much for being on
Thank
the
you
show.
so much for having us.